and Fulbright, along with her husband Jim, moved to Arkansas, 17, 18 years ago, from California. Well, no, actually it was Washington State. They'd lived in California earlier than that, but she really is originally an Arkansas girl. Upon moving back here, after a short time, they built a new home, and in that home, she had visions of her most perfect garden. So, Anne, tell us, what was your vision for this garden?
Well, I think the most important thing probably is, having lived in California, I got to really love the inside-outside concept of houses and gardens, and I have always wanted just to have a beautiful view of the outside from inside my house. So that's why we have all these windows across the back of our house now, so that we can look out, and I love flowers. Having lived in Washington, which has an English climate, I grew mostly perennials there, and I had beautiful, beautiful garden there with perennials everywhere. And so I thought I could do that in Arkansas, but I wasn't sure. And so when we moved here, I took a master gardening course and to try to learn what did well here. And I've experimented and experimented over the years.
What year did you start developing this garden?
2005.
2005. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's a little further back than I realized. Thinking about your garden and all the effort that's gone into it, if you had to pick one or two things that you think you've had the greatest success with, what would they be?
Greatest success with? Well, I don't know. I think that to just go back a little bit, when we moved in here, we moved in May of 2005. It was so hot, and I ordered tons of plants, and and 2/3 of them died from the Arkansas summer. So I had to start adapting from there. And I had spent so much money on these plants, I thought, I am not going to spend a lot more money on plants. So I don't know. I think the thing about gardening is you have to adapt all the time. It's just really important, because you get something in the wrong place, it has to go out. So anyway, what I started with...
The summers are brutal here.
The summers are brutal. Perennials do not do very well generally. The beautiful perennials I had before, none of them worked here. So in my garden in Washington, I didn't have an annual, not an annual, it was all perennials. So here, what I've learned over these years that makes a color in my garden are annuals in the summertime, and they are reseeding annuals. I don't buy anything. They just come up, and they come up every year. At first I thought, are they going to come up? So I was saving the seeds. Now I don't even save the seeds, because I know that they're going to come up.
What about Melapodium?
Melapodium is one of them.
One of them. It's beautiful. The first time I saw it, I'd never seen it.
Zinnias are one of them. Vincas are one of them.
When did you plant that Vitex tree out front? Do you remember? Roughly about what year?
I don't know. I think that was about 10 years ago, maybe.
Well, it is just stunning. and describe how this garden has evolved over time. You talked a little bit about your realization that you were going to be using annuals to achieve the color you wanted in the summer, and that certain plants just died in this climate. Give us a couple more examples of things that didn't work, but things that you found that did work, and they worked in a spectacular way.
Well, I've added a lot of roses to my garden, for one thing, thinking when I first moved in here that roses were too much trouble. But then I decided that roses are kind of a lot of trouble, but they do give you a lot of bloom and a lot of color, a lot of time. I mean, for a long period of time. So I've added a lot of, especially drift roses, which I absolutely love. And then what else?
What about the garden phlox?
And I have lots of phlox. I have a phlox that came from where I grew up in Arkansas, in cotton plant, and I have given that phlox away to so many people, and it just keeps going, and I just love it. And
I'm one of the ones that it's that soft pink. It's a beautiful thing, and it mixes with just about everything.
It does.
You could actually get by. Well, of course, you could get by with purples and brighter pinks and so forth with it, and whites, but you can actually go with deeper colors too. It still works okay with like a deep magenta or even a bright yellow.
It does. And I've introduced a taller phlox, purple, more purple, and I just love that one too. That one is just stunning, and I'm going to try to
bloom for 4 months.
And the hummingbirds love them, and the bees love them, and the butterflies love them.
A big one. And since I first visited your garden, which was about 16 years ago, maybe 15, many of your trees are much larger than they were at that time. And could you list a few of the trees that you like the best in your garden?
I love my Coosa dogwoods. They're the smaller ones, but the other
bloom later.
They bloom later than the regular dogwood, but they're just beautiful. And I'm so excited because I think they are reseeding. I've got now one in a pot that is probably 5 or 6 feet tall that I'm going to plant somewhere.
That's real exciting.
I think that I'm really excited about that. I love reseed, I guess because I'm cheap. On
the corner of the back of your house, you've got a really stunning large, and there may be even more than that, Japanese maple.
Oh, I love my Japanese maples,
too. Do you know how many you have?
Oh, gosh, I must have about 10 of them, I guess. And I brought them all from my former house here in Hot Springs. I had a former house when we moved here, that we lived in for 5 years. And so we had a lot of Japanese maples in that yard, and they had reseeded, and I potted those little things up. So these big, huge Japanese maples now all came from these little pots of seedlings.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you started, did you pick a certain color palette? I remember Bob Byers at Garvin Garden in a class that we took out there said, have one spectacular primary color and one that is a secondary color and one that is tertiary color. However, over time I've realized we have so many different blooming seasons that you can actually, if you're skilled at intermixing those colors, you can have several different palettes. You can have a softer palette in the spring and a bright, intense palette in the summer. What colors specifically were you trying to achieve in this yard? You know, you've got that purple vitex out front. You've got those pink garden phlox, and I'm looking out there and all kinds of roses and the pinks and the purple shades. Were there other colors that you wanted to make sure you got?
No, I think I like I like pinks, and I like all of it, really. I even like to introduce orange in with some of these things, which some people would not do, but I think it's stunning. Red and orange is really pretty to me.
Especially in the intense summer.
In the summer. In the spring, I'm a lot of pink, different shades of pink and white. But I don't know, because my garden has gotten moved around so much. You know, it's hard to maintain it, but you always have to think about the seasons that things are going to be blooming, I think, if you want to have
continuous bloom.
Yeah.
In addition to creating the variety in your yard with color, have you also tried to do that with texture and leaf shape?
I think about that all the time, too. In my early gardening days, I read tons of books about gardening, about color in the garden, about texture in the garden. I have tons of books, and I don't read them too much, and magazines. I used to take 2 or 3 magazines, gardening magazines. I was a passionate gardener starting in Washington, in that English climate.
Weren't you featured in a tour in Washington?
I was, yeah.
What was that exactly?
Well, it was in Bellingham, Washington, and they have a wonderful garden society there, and they bring in these speakers from England and who write books and anyway, I just had I just had retired, and I wanted to do gardening. I never had been able to do gardening much in California because I was working, but anyway, it was in Washington. Just is that area right there on the Sound is just is the cool weather and just enough rain, and yeah, it was just wonderful. And then so anyway, I was on a garden tour there, and it was fun.
Lots of work, I'm sure.
And then I also had a little garden tour. We moved and built a house at another place in Washington, and I put in a garden there, and it was also quite beautiful. I was on their little tour, too.
Wow. What did you have, you talked about having to delete a lot of things that you initially wanted here. What is the thing that broke your heart that you had to delete that just didn't work here?
What are the things that didn't work here?
It really broke your heart when you couldn't grow them.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think anything broke my heart. It broke my heart. I mean, when we first moved in here, I think I had 3 quince bushes. I had, I don't know, I had trees. I had a crabapple. I had done a lot of research before on what to plant. And they brought all these plants, and we planted them, and darn, they just didn't like it. That I don't know if it was the summer or what.
So you don't have quinces now?
No, I don't. No, I've taken them all out. Everything.
Are you happy with what you've created here?
What?
Are you happy with what you've managed to create here?
Basically, I am.
Gives you satisfaction?
Yeah, basically, I really am. I mean, I love getting up in the morning, coming in my kitchen and looking out at my flowers. It just sort of fills my heart, really. It just kind of, I love it. I love having my dinners here and looking out and seeing
this room
flowers.
Really interacts with your garden, so you succeeded tremendously in achieving that goal that you had. And I want to thank you today for joining us, for sharing your garden with us. It's just
you're
lovely.
Welcome.
It's a smaller garden that you have managed to achieve so much with. And who would have thought that you'd even been able to integrate a small vegetable plot with it? That shocked me and surprised me. I also have been really excited about the first few times I was here, you had some hydrangeas, some types of hydrangeas that I'd never seen before at that time. I think at least one of them is gone now. So, but hydrangeas are wonderful here as well. Thank you so much, Ann, for being with us today.
Yeah. Oh, there's one thing I just want to say, and that is, I think that plants have gotten so expensive now, and I think maybe some people would be put off by putting in because it would cost so much. But if you use these little reseeded plants for the summertime, you can achieve beautiful color without great cost if you have the patience to wait for them to come up and bloom. And I just think that that's an important thing, is that you don't have to be put off by cost. And you can easily be, because you go to the nursery today, it is darned expensive to
You've also been really generous in sharing your plants.
I love to share my plants because for one thing, I think that when you share a plant, it makes you think of the person that gave it to you.
Yeah, you walk out in your garden and
you
say,
do.
I got that from Ann.
I think it's a wonderful concept. So I love to do that. I love to get plants from people, and it does. You walk around, it makes you, every time you look at them, you think of that person. It's wonderful.
I think of you when I look at my Melapodium, because I had never seen a Melapodium before.
And you have my phlox.
And I have
you think of me when you see your phlox.
Sure and now I've added 3 other colors of phlox as a result of that first phlox that I got from you. So this is Sharon Dent and Ann Fulbright, along with Pam McCoy, who is our filmer, our editor, and our creator of our video, and we hope you all have enjoyed it. Thank you.